We'll welcome in the Pro Football Hall of Famer Brett Favre. Right now, Brett is the executive producer of the new film Concuss, the American Dream, an independent documentary film being released on August 27th, exposing the devastating toll that head trauma has had on Brett and other NFL players. Brett, thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
Been good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk about the independent documentary in just a bit, but I have to get your impressions and your thoughts on what you were able to see this year from Jordan Love. First true year as the Packers starting quarterback. We know he was in the second round to the playoffs and really got going in the second half of the season, where down the stretch he had 20 total touchdowns and was really playing some solid football. So give me your thoughts on Love.
Well, you hit it on the head right there. Thought he played exceptionally well, especially down the stretch. There was a point there in that San Francisco the Cisco game that I thought they may represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I know that had to win that game and go play Detroit, but they were hot, and a lot of the credit needs to go to Jordan and how he played. But I think more importantly, his leadership. Now, I'm not in the huddle. I'm not on the sidelines. I'm not at practice in the locker room, but you can tell. If you have any, football knowledge or leadership knowledge, you know that those guys love playing with Jordan and for Jordan. But I thought he was, there's no right or wrong answer in regards to how you lead. Some are rah-rah guys like a Tom Brady. You can see he wears his emotions on the sleeve, much like myself. But then there's the quiet leaders. And that's what I saw with Jordan. Let his play do the talking. Hard to tell if they're up or they're down, they're struggling, or what. He just is the same. And I think in regards to that serves you well in the long run from a playing standpoint, where you don't get too high and too low. You're even kill, and you just play each play out, as it comes. But I was very impressed with how he played and how he handled himself.
Yeah, his leadership was unbelievable. I know it's only 1 year, and there's a lot more to go, but you know what the standard is in Green Bay. You play quarterback there, you got to win a Super Bowl. You got to go be a Hall of Famer. With what you saw this past year, I know it's very early in his career, but do you look at this guy and Jordan Love being someone that could one day be a Super Bowl championship quarterback and also one day wear a gold jacket like what you've accomplished in this league?
Without question, and you're right. It's 1 year, but how many guys have we seen in 1 year ruin it? And, he's got a lot of playing years ahead of him. But barring injury, I don't see any reason why he doesn't take him to the Super Bowl. He almost did this past year. And we have to keep in mind that it was his first year as a starter, but he's seasoned. He's been around. He's seen Aaron do it at the highest level. He's seen success. So, it was time for him to take over. And I think he went over and beyond what everyone expected. Not that anyone had low expectations of it, but to lead them, I don't know if many people pegged them as a playoff contender, especially midway through the season. But boy, the second half, you can't deny whether you're a Jordan Love, whether you're a Packer fan or not. No one wanted to play them when they were hot. And I was very impressed with how he got better each and every week, and never let it bother him when they were struggling. So there's no reason why, if he doesn't play the way we know he's capable of now. He set the bar high for himself, especially early. But I'm sure he would rather have it that way than the opposite.
And it's also impressive, Brett, as Brett Favre is here with us, the Pro Football Hall of Famer. You take a look at that offense. They got good pieces on that offense side of the ball, don't get me wrong, but there's no number one wide receiver. And we know he's the point guard of that offense, and he's got to get the ball all over the place. But to be able to do that with that number one wide receiver, I know we talked about leadership and how impressive that is, but it's really impressive when you look at the weapons. No one really breaking out and being that number one guy, how successful of a season he was still able to have.
No, you're right. they did fairly well with the run game. I think Matt LaFleur did a good job of calling plays that cater to Jordan Love, and what that goes back to when I became the starter in Green Bay, and Mike Holmgren, maybe the first 3 to 4 or 5, maybe even 6 games, was calling plays that he called for Steve Young and Joe Montana because they worked and they read them correctly. And they didn't quite work for me at first, mainly because I was far behind where most guys were at that time in reading defenses and how that pertained to what we were doing on offense and the reads and the potential of changing plays and protections. I was in way over my head with that. So Mike was like, screw that. I'm going to call plays that I know that you feel comfortable running. And so I look at Matt LaFleur and Jordan. Matt maybe called plays early on that Aaron ran exceptionally well, that made it look easy, that quite frankly are not easy and maybe fit his style of play more than Jordan. But then it seemed to me as the season progressed, especially the latter part of the season, they were clicking on all cylinders. And I give a lot of credit to Matt and Jordan for making those plays. But they got a really good, talented young team. A lot of guys you don't know. The names are not recognizable yet. But I think they got a good young receiving group. And again, barring injury, I think they're in the thick of it again this year.
Talking to Brett Favre. Brett is now the executive producer of the new film Concussed, the American Dream, an independent documentary film being released on August 27th, exposing the devastating toll the head trauma has had on Brett and other NFL players. We'll talk about it in just a bit. Let me ask you about Aaron Rodgers, coming off the Achilles injury. Now, hopefully, if he's able to stay healthy, first full year in New York actually playing. What do you expect from Aaron Rodgers this year?
Well, if Aaron's healthy, I expect what everyone else expects, that he leads that team to potentially a championship. Their defense, I don't think anyone can question whether you're familiar with the Jets or not. Their defense is pretty darn stout. And when you got a really good defense, you got a chance. Now you throw Aaron in the mix, and there's probably not a better playmaker at quarterback starting in the league right now, even at his age. I mean, he's you throw the age out, the number, and look at how he moves and gets rid of the ball and his football knowledge. He's got the highest football IQ of anybody I've ever been around. So I expect that they compete for not only the division championship, but the conference championship, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, so Ian O'Connor, I don't know if you read it or not. He has a book out about Aaron Rodgers, or coming on out, and it talks about your relationship with him in the book. I just wanted to give you a chance to respond because he didn't paint it in the best of light. I'm just wondering, do you at all regret maybe when Aaron got to Green Bay, anything that happened there?
No, I thought we had a great relationship, to be honest with you. Did Aaron say these words, or is it?
Aaron's father and a few other teammates.
That's news to me. But I felt like we had a great relationship. We watched a lot of film together. And we didn't hang out. I was quite a bit older than him. I went home to Deanna and the girls. We played golf together. Anytime that he would ask, hey, do you mind if I watch extra film with you? I had no problems with it. I'm a little taken aback by that, but I don't believe. Well, first of all, I don't read anything. I don't watch anything. So the only time I hear something is if I'm doing a show like this, or I'm somewhere where in familiar territory with people that I played with that they know, and so on and so forth. But I thought we had a great relationship, to be honest with you.
Talking to Brett Favre. When we get to Patrick Mahomes, what he's been able to do, it's as good of a start of a career as you could get. There's already that greatest of all time kind of conversation. Where are you when we're in that regards, you being someone that's an all-time great quarterback
Yeah.
and someone that has a Pro Football Hall of Fame jacket?
Well, I think Patrick is deserving of all the great things that have been said about him. He's got great leadership. He's got great playmaking ability. Seems to have fun. He's with arguably the best coach in NFL history, who I had the pleasure of playing under for several years. Andy is the best. You can't help but want to play for him, which all that does is brings a positive environment, even more positive. I mean, they're winning, they're having fun. They got a great catalyst at quarterback who can make every throw. But I think it's a little premature, and he'd probably say the same thing to even consider him as the greatest. I mean, what, Tom's got like 7 Super Bowls?
Yeah.
Only 7, but
and beat Mahomes in a Super Bowl too.
What's that?
And beat Mahomes in a Super Bowl and an AFC Championship game. That Tom Brady fella.
Well, Tom's beating everybody, so it is what it is. But Tom is certainly deserving of that title, and until someone gets even close, which is going to be a tall order. But I would say, if there's a team that can do it, right now it's Kansas City. They just reload every year. Their quarterback plays great, always keeps them in games, wins the close ones, wins the games that you're supposed to win, and again is well coached. So if anybody can do it, they can.
Before I ask you about the independent documentary film that you have coming out on August 27th, and I want to give you a ton of time to discuss whatever you want to do with that. Rookie quarterbacks in the league. We had 6 rookie quarterbacks go in the first round of this past draft in the first 12 picks. Who were some of the guys that really jump out to you with some of those rookies that you're excited to see play this year, potentially?
Well, you got to start with the first one. It's going to be interesting. Caleb Williams, I don't know him. Didn't see a lot of his games, but what I saw, the guy, you can't argue. He's a tremendous talent, and in some respects, and you have to. Maybe I'm dating myself, but he reminds me a little bit of Jeff George, if that rings a bell with you. And now Jeff was a few years ahead of me, but when he came out, he had all the tools and had a tremendous arm, highly regarded, and like a lot of guys that get drafted early, sometimes it's not the right situation for you, but you never know, nor do you have an option. The only one that I think chose to not play for the team that drafted him in the first round was John Elway. So you play the hand that you're dealt. So Chicago has struggled. I don't think anyone can argue with that, but Caleb has a lot of weapons that a lot of guys don't have that they wish they had. And I think the most important, if I would call it intangible maybe, that he's going to need, I think, this year more than anything is, he's got a great arm. He can move around. He can make all the throws, but he's going to have to be a solid leader. They're going to have to rely on him. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, maybe more so than he had in college. So how he handles that will maybe determine how good and how long he plays long after. But, I think Bo Nix is an interesting guy. Was just a guy at Auburn, went to Oregon, and just was a ball buster. Man, he was incredible. Can he take that? And I think he's in a great spot with Sean Payton. I don't think anyone can argue the two of them together could be pretty damn good. So first and foremost, I'd like to see what those two do. But you're right. There's a lot of times, the guy that I don't want to say pick last, but in regards to first round guys, gets lost in the shuffle, ends up getting a chance to play early, and a lot of times it seems to me rises to the top quicker than others.
Brett, before we let you run, tell me about the independent documentary film that you got coming out on August 27th called Concussed: The American Dream.
Yeah, me and a guy, David Cano, who really put this together. David's a great guy. We've actually, I say he's done most of the legwork. I got a small piece in it where I talk a little bit about concussions and my history and so forth, what I know about concussions and so on. But David really has done a great job of putting this together. And the storyline is really about the young man, Tyler Sash, who played at Iowa and was drafted by the Giants, was really an Iowa hometown hero, and would give you the shirt off his back. And again, if you watch this, you'll hear all the things that I'm saying. Was the furthest thing from what he became. And his mom paints a great picture of Tyler and how he was prior to head trauma. And the thing about concussions and head trauma is you can have one concussion and it can be your demise. You can have 20 and maybe, seemingly be okay, at least for the short term. There's no rhyme or reason. And, one of the things that they know about neurological diseases today that maybe they didn't know back in the day was that head trauma increases your chances of getting a neurological disease. And it's really frightening. So I think the most important thing that people should take from this is that no one is immune to head trauma. You can fall on the playground, pee-wee football, an elderly slips on, the floor. There's so many ways to get a concussion. And what I've learned with concussions, and I remember having a conversation with the doctor that Will Smith portrayed in the movie Concussion years ago, Dr. Benjamin Amalu. I asked him, we were doing a conference call with several others, and at the end of that call, I said, Dr. Amalu, when is a good time to play tackle football? And he kind of chuckled, and he said, never. He said, I know that football fans and people in the front office, and they don't want to hear that. But there's never a good time. The human head is not built for, the violent hits that we occur in not only in NFL, but in high school, college, junior high. I think what I would like to see done is more. I think the NFL has done a good job of changing rules and being more conscious of quarterbacks, almost to a point where it's maybe over the line. But concussions are not going away.
Yeah.
And I would like to see them spend more money on finding a solution, a cure, a treatment. Helmets, better helmets, only go so far because most concussions are a result of the whiplash effect. You're tackled, your head hits the turf. And people don't think about that. They think about the head-to-head. But I do think that in regards to youth football, they need to raise the tackle part of it to at least maybe the 9th grade. Everyone play flag football. There's no reason for a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grader to play tackle football. Teach them the fundamentals. Let them play flag football. Let them be safer. And then, thinking about Dr. Malu, there's never a good time to play tackle football, but at least you're giving the kids a fighting chance. And if everyone did it, then the playing field would be even. If one state does flag football and another one doesn't, we're still putting our youth in harm's way. So that's what I would like to see come out of this documentary.
If you knew what you now understand, like let's say when you were 18, would you have still played football?
I think I would have played. Yeah, I love the game. I love the game, and no one loved playing it as much as I. And that's from day one. And I don't think many people, whether you're a fan or not, would deny that I had fun. But concussions were not painted in the light that we now know them until the latter part of my career. And my last play just happened to be a major concussion where I actually blacked out, was out for a minute or two. And there's never a good time to have a concussion of that magnitude, certainly not at 41. So I would have played. Would I have played as long or maybe played as careless at times where, I wasn't afraid to block and stick my head up in there? I think I would have been a little more cautious and more aware, like with my body and how that's going to, serve me later down the road. But it's hard to say, and sitting here many years later, it's easy to speculate what you would do, but I know that I love the game and love playing it as much as anyone, but there are repercussions that we're going to face later on. You see a lot of these old guys, and I'm not quite there yet, but they struggle to walk out for the coin flip. I've already had my right hip replaced, and I've had 2 back surgeries in the last year. And although I'm able to do a lot of stuff that I choose to do, it's not without, it's struggles. So who knows what the future holds? And that's for me and for all football players in general. So, I would play, but to what extent, I don't know. Maybe less than what I played.
He is Brett Favre, the Pro Football Hall of Famer. Once again, Brett is the executive producer of the new film, Concussed, the American Dream, an independent documentary film being released on August 27th, exposing the devastating toll, as he just discussed, that head trauma has had on Brett and other NFL players. Brett, appreciate the time today. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.